Go ahead and pour yourself up a cup of coffee or bone broth because this chuck roast recipe is super easy and casual. First off, let's dig out that old crock pot. This is mine and its name is Load of Crock. Simply get yourself a 3 to 5 pound chuck roast and casually toss it into your slow cooker and season it. I usually go with about 1 teaspoon per pound of roast, but you can also go with a half teaspoon per pound and adjust after it's done cooking. Cover it with a lid and turn the heat high for 4 hours or low for 8 hours. And that's basically it. I didn't add any liquid, nor did I touch it after I set my alarm. And as you can see, it's fall apart tender. And if you're wondering what that liquid is in the bottom of the crock pot, that's the jus, my dear viewer. And it's some of the richest jus you'll ever taste. It was never diluted by water, and it'll gel up nicely. Simply shred this in this delicious broth and store it. Or eat it. It's good to go, and honestly, it really doesn't need much else. If I had to give it one word to describe it, it'd be unctuous. Alright, take out those Paris Hilton collection knives and a couple of beautiful chickens. The knife is honestly more important than the chicken, but the chicken is pretty nice to have for this recipe. And honestly, this isn't as much of a recipe as it is a tutorial on how to easily roast a chicken. To start, get your chicken out of the package if it's in one. Remove all of the random bits that it comes stuffed inside, and set those to the side. And for this first one, I'm simply going to use salt. And a good bit of it as well, maybe a tablespoon or even more. Take your salt and sprinkle it all over the chicken. You'll want to get into every nook and cranny that you could possibly think of, but you especially want to hit the cavity. And that's really it. I'm doing some meal prep and want a couple of different flavors going on. So for the second one, I'm going to be using some jalapeno ranch from my company, Carnivore Companion. If you're interested in checking out our awesome line of seasonings, the link will be below. Next up, I let these just kind of sit in the seasoning for about 30 minutes at room temp to draw out some excess liquid. If you're short on time, you can actually just skip this step, but it does help to let that seasoning seep into the chicken a bit more. Remove the liquid if you did this, and now we can place our birds into the oven at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. What you're really looking for is for the breast to have an internal temperature of 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Once the chicken is out, carryover cooking will allow the meat to hit a target of 165 degrees Fahrenheit because we will be letting it rest for about 20 minutes before we dig in. And when cooking a whole chicken like this, the goal is to keep the white meat as juicy as possible and the dark meat as tender as possible. And if you ask me, that's one juicy breast. Shout out to Chef John from Food Wishes for this method. I learned it from him years ago and it's worked every single time.